Hi guys, welcome to another Turnback Devo Blast. Glad to have you with. I am coming at you today from beautiful Lake Wasserman in Victoria, Minnesota, and I'm at the Blessing House. And I've wanted to get you guys over here for a little bit now and talking with Gail Berger, who's the executive director here. And Gail has become a real dear friend of mine over the years, and the Blessing House has played a key role in my recovery earlier on and still today, which we'll talk about too. But Gail's going to take a couple different angles with us today. One, she's going to talk about an addiction from a wife's standpoint. And the other one is we talk a lot about getting in community as you're going through your recovery journey and not doing it alone. But on the flip side of that, there is definitely something to finding a time just to be quiet and unplug from everything going on around you. And the Blessing House is the kind of place where that can happen. So let's head inside and I'll introduce you to Gail Berger. All right, so we're inside with Gail Berger.
Yeah.
From the Blessing House.
Hello, everyone.
I'm not quite sure what your title is anymore.
I'm called now founder and spiritual director. So you see how he's laid out here on the couch?
Well, it's because I'm 3 feet taller than you. If I were to interview you like this, it wouldn't go so well. Oh, this thing. It's just water, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about two things, about the importance of a Blessing House type place in your life, especially when you're going through trials, because this place was important to me when everything blew up in my life. I ended up here by God's providence in a Bible study, and then it just became an important place to meet people and to have you as kind of a spiritual mother through all of that, but it was a place where I could just kind of escape the things that were going on in my life. So, and we talked to them about the importance of staying in community with other men for accountability and for doing homework and just for having battle buddies along with them. But then it's also important to find some solitude as well, where you can go and just come face to face with God and be alone with Him. Mm-hmm. How do you see that playing out here?
Well, I believe the Blessing House is an unconventional resource for you. It's a home that has been built and set aside for just this very thing. So whoever God wants to bring to the door, He wants to bless. But sometimes there's simply no place to go. You can go to coffee shops or restaurants, but here you'll always find a home, and there'll always be a space for you. God's trained me for this work by a lot of my experiences, and that includes dealing with alcoholism and drug abuse in my family. A husband that was a highly functional alcoholic did die in a straitjacket at 54. And his successful business and everything else that he had designed and thought about wasn't able to stop it. He'd been in treatment, but he just never really believed it was a problem. And he died from it. That's an amazing thing. Now my son, he started into drugs when he was about 12, and in 17 he put himself into treatment because I was so busy with my husband. And he died at 26. But do you know, in that period of time, he had a family, he had property, he had a prosperous business, and he lived a huge life. And even though he died at 26, there were many men that never ever really got to see the kind of life that's available when you're sober.
Right.
So he was a great example of what God can do with a man that really admits where they're at and seeks help. So
from a wife's perspective, it becomes really easy for the person who's in an addiction to become very self-focused, and they don't see what's going on around them. From a wife's perspective and from a mom's perspective too, how did their addictions affect you in ways that they may not have known that they did?
Well, it's really hard to know that you're living with secrets. And there were a lot of secrets that they always had to cover themselves for. And so it was very tenuous. And even though Bob was high functioning, yet he wasn't really all there. His mind was somewhere else. And my son, he was more of a wild and crazy, out with motorcycles and boats and that kind of thing. But the whole reality of the addiction is that it changes, so everybody's walking on eggshells all the time. You never know who's going to walk in the door.
Yeah.
But it's really the secrets. You know, a wife knows. There's secrets. And so that really stops deep conversations. I think it stopped a reality of being able to love the person. You know, you think what you could have had.
Yeah.
Think what you could have had. And he died at 54 and never saw his kids married, never saw his grandchildren, never saw how successful his sons were. What a wasted time.
Right.
I think that time is so precious. There's so little of it.
And we talked a little bit earlier about, you know, the differences between a chemical substance addiction versus a sexual addiction with pornography. But when I look back at, you know, my own addiction and how much time I spent in my office with the door shut, it's kind of equivalent to that, where that's time I can't get back.
No.
And then you had said something interesting about the fact that the wife knows when there's something going on. Can you talk to that a little bit too?
I remember when Bob had an affair because of that alcoholism, and I knew something was wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. So anybody that's having an affair with an, you know, any addiction or with a woman on a screen, the wife knows there is, you know, that's stealing from us. And I said, you either, you know, leave that or you're out of here. I had to. We couldn't live that way. So, and the thing is, it steals from him too. I mean, he couldn't enjoy life. Like, he had to always double back and cover up and that kind of thing. So, you know, when I was dealing with alcohol, I had to face my own part in it too. And so I get it, how you want to avoid it and avoid it and avoid it, and you don't want to deal with it, and it can't possibly be, and you know, you talk against yourself. Oh no, he's all right. No, it'll be all right. And I was shocked when I first went to my first Al-Anon meeting, and I heard somebody else use words to describe what they were going through. I was shocked. I really didn't think other people. I mean, that's
you felt
ignorant.
alone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That's the worst part, and the shame, you know.
So from a wife's perspective, when their husband is in an addiction, what are some things that a wife can do, or what are some things you did to hold out hope? Or how did you stay in that marriage when you knew that there was an addiction going on in his life and his focuses were elsewhere?
It was after I'd done the intervention, and so there was those 4 years before he started drinking again, you know. So during those 4 years, he was a dry drunk, which made it even more difficult. And he never really believed he had an addiction. I mean, the blindness to the addiction was such. And then I began to realize he was trapped. You know, he couldn't get out.
So you had to focus on him and what he was going through as well.
Yeah, but I had to, you know what agape love is? Yeah, it's loving the one that can't love you back. It was impossible for him to love me because he was so wrapped up in himself. I had to have good health myself in terms of when things got hard. I needed to move forward, always moving forward, not moving backward. And you dig deep into God. I mean, that he was my constant companion.
Do you think it's possible to stay with a husband like that if you're not firmly rooted in the Lord himself?
I don't see how
yourself?
you can. I really don't. Because agape love is impossible without God's love.
So if you could speak truth into a wife who might be watching, you know, is there hope for her marriage, for her husband who's in an addiction?
I believe there's always hope. You have to learn, you have to know the Lord and get all your resources from Him. I was very fortunate to have my Al-Anon group. So if there's a group of women that are going through it where you can really talk the same language, that's really helpful. So I think because I've had to deal with addictions, there isn't anything God can't heal and restore and bring back. Yeah.
Well, we'll have more with Gail in the next episode. It turns out there was so much good stuff that we talked about. We couldn't fit it all in one episode, so we'll break it up and we'll do it again. If you're not there already, go check out the Blessing House's website. It's just theblessinghouse.mn.org. Right there. Go check them out. The audio recording and the video is always a little bit suspect on these still because we're still recording them just off my phone, so I apologize for the lower volume level on this. But speaking of that, Turnback is now aligned with Involve MN, which is a local nonprofit here in Minnesota and a 501c3, so we're now able to take donations and issue tax credits for them. So one of the things that we want to do on the front side is get some funds coming in to get some new audio and video recording equipment to make these podcasts and these video devos better. So if you're interested in learning more about that, hit our website. It's turnbackministries.com. Up in the top, there's a support Turnback link. I would really love it if you'd prayerfully consider becoming a monthly financial supporter of Turnback, and you can help make things like this possible with better equipment, but also as we start looking at the Turnback Ranch, which we'll be talking about that more coming up, there's going to be some great needs there as well. So we'd love it if you could check that out. So guys, have a great week. Thanks for watching. May you grow closer to God this week as you spend time with Him in His Word, and I'll see you next time. It's windy. How do you find a camera that helps you look less balding? Does that exist?